I'm going to start with something very basic, a very basic question for you, Darshan. Farmers are an issue in every election since independence. We've seen all parties speak about farmers, speak about giving them SOPs, giving them subsidies. It's been a central issue. But still, when you go to farmers, when you go to villages, you see that there's some basic things which haven't changed. Like to get a scheme, you have to bribe. The fluctuation in prices. So I just want to know, as someone who's just entered politics and someone whose father is a legend in this field, who's worked with farmers, why is it that farmer is so important, but still you almost see that nothing really has happened through the years?
I think for the obvious reasons why farmer is important is the majority of the population in our country is our farmers. And they kind of become backbone of the economy. And I think to answer your other question about why nothing's changed, in terms of the bribe, and you're asking why the system is wrong.
I'm asking that do political parties really even take the farmers as serious voter base? Because if it was such a serious voter base, then things would have at least moved in some direction. I think
that's a great question.
Or is it just a lip service that every election?
To a certain extent, it does, right? Once you win, you go about doing your own things. But we would probably need a majority, like people with like-minded people who actually get the majority. That's when they can actually make a change. Because right now when I'm going through the whole process, I see why there's disconnect between what we say and what's being done. And I think the problems are much deeper as well. I think, I was outside. I was born into a farming family, but really grew up after growing up.
You were in the US,
and I had my own kind of line. But after I come, I think there are changes that need to be brought about here, because one key thing that I feel is missing is the awareness. Awareness meaning farmers, right? So the way that we are farming is the same way that we used to farm 50, 60, 80 years ago. Right? So nothing's changed other than moving up from bullock carts to tractors. The way that we farm, the way we plow the land, there's no science being followed, or are there alternative ways of farming?
So you mean in terms of science and tech, there's very little intervention which can...
It may not necessarily be science and tech. It's more like, can you grow multiple crops in the same land? Can you actually, Swaraj Palekar, he actually has, shown things can be grown, multiple crops can be grown in the same piece of land. How many people know about it, right? So that's the awareness that needs to be spread at the root level. At the root level, how can you actually? Now that even if you make them aware, then you have to next think about how do you actually train them to do it.
Right. So you must have interacted in your canvassing with a lot of farmers. What are the key problems that you see? What are the key complaints or issues that people want you to address if you do get selected?
I think in this region, at least where I am, water is scarce. We've been in drought for the last 2-3 years. That's a big thing, and loans, right? So basically a farmer gives birth into when he gives birth or she gives birth, there's loans. And they grow up, in loans, and they die in loans. So basically loans and over and over.
That's true. In fact, I traveled a little in Madur and I met two families who had lost their family members to suicide. And again, the problem was loan from private money lenders, which they could not give back. How do you, is there something that you have in mind to address these issues?
No, I cannot do it alone, but I mean, it's basic, right? So you actually go borrow money, hoping that you'll actually have
money to pay back,
but you end up actually losing money. Then then all the political parties and the activist organizations then go about pressuring the government to waive the loans off, and that's a cycle.
Yeah,
it's never been broken, right? So how can we break that? Can we actually help? Get farmers a minimum support price for their crops. Then that doesn't suffice. Then you have to teach them the basic financial management, and so on and so forth. So again, awareness is key. So it's awareness and education is the piece that is actually missing from just what I've seen. So that's what.
So the JDS candidate who is standing against you here, he has said in some interviews to the News Minute, I was reading, he was saying that you're a newcomer and that you cannot win because you don't know what politics is. Do you get that a lot? Like, do people look at you like an outsider who's come, who cannot fight the money, maybe does not have the money or the muscle to fight elections? Because, in India, all elections are a lot about money and muscle.
No, I do agree with him. Because, I'm being straight and honest about, how do I fight the elections? Me personally, I don't know a whole lot, but I think people around me know.
Okay.
People who've actually been in the party, in the system, and with my father, I fought elections, multiple elections. They know how to, and I'm relying on them, and actually, more than them, I'm actually relying on people themselves. Because people are actually telling me what to do and what not to do and things like that. But I think, I do agree with him that I might not have the experience, but I have the heart to fight.
A cynical person would say that, okay, good intentions can't really take you far in politics. Do you think of that? Because you're also a new entrant and you got into this after your father passed away early this year. Does that doubt come into your mind sometimes? That maybe it's not enough to have good intentions?
I think yes and no, but my father has actually lived that. It has been hard. I've seen it firsthand. As a family member, I've experienced it, the pain that he's gone through to actually tread that path. No doubt it has actually gotten worse, and it is going to be harder for me. But I think there are a lot of people, people in Swaraj India, right? So there are a lot of them. There's a lot of volunteers. There's a lot of people who actually want that the next generation of political change to happen. Because everybody's fed up.